I think this country has just lost its greatest Prime Minister since Winston Churchill. And Margaret Thatcher was a revolutionary and she was a liberator. She freed millions of people to buy their own homes, to buy shares in British companies. And yes, sometimes the things that she said were tough, but I think when you look back, she was overwhelmingly right in her judgments. She was right about the unions, she was right about the threat of Soviet communism, and I think she's been proved overwhelmingly right about the euro. She took on that cozy, clubby, male-dominated consensus, and she won. And I think she's been an inspiration to many, many women and to many people who go into politics. And I think when you look at Margaret Thatcher and you compare her with some of the men in grey suits who preceded her and who succeeded her, I think there's no doubt that her memory will live on. And I think this whole country is very much in her debt. Well, I grew up in the whole Thatcher period when it was absolutely clear that the country needed to change, and she offered this revolutionary prospectus. And she, as I say, she liberated people to do their own thing economically. She unleashed a spirit of enterprise in this country. And people could buy their own homes. They could buy shares. And I remember thinking back when I was a student and at school that, some of the stuff she was saying sounded pretty tough. But in the end, it was right, and it was what the country needed. And she was completely right about the unions. She was right about what was going on in Soviet Russia. And as I say, if you look at what's happening to the euro today, who can say she was wrong about that? I think the most important thing that Margaret Thatcher did was to knock on the head the defeatism and the pessimism of the post-war consensus. I think there were loads of people who came to power in the decades after the Second World War who thought that the country was fated to decline. And Margaret Thatcher didn't think that was true. And she put the country on a path to recovery and to rediscover its ambition. And that was a formidable thing to accomplish. And when you consider that she was this country's first female prime minister, I think she will go down as a truly historic figure, not just in the politics of this country, but in global politics as well. Because believe me, what she said and what she did was listened to and followed around the world. She was of worldwide importance. Margaret Thatcher was of huge importance to London. What she did for this city in terms of the financial markets was extremely important. She reformed financial services, the Big Bang in the mid-80s, that allowed London to recover the preeminence it had and which it now has in financial services. That was of huge benefit. She put in infrastructure projects that were fantastic importance. The Jubilee Line extension made possible the massive growth of Canary Wharf, and after all, Canary Wharf itself, a financial centre that is now bigger than Frankfurt. Now, Canary Wharf is now bigger, and that was, after all, part of her vision. So I think when you look at London and you look at the London economy, you could certainly argue that she played a major role in setting it on the path to its current prosperity. I don't think this is particularly the moment to dwell on the weaknesses of a very, very great Prime Minister. I know that many people will now wish to, and people are obviously piling in on various sides of the political argument, and she will have her critics even today. I would just ask those critics, I think most of whom understand this point, to bear in mind that she took some very, very difficult decisions at a time when tough decisions needed to be made. And by and large, she got them right. On the big questions facing this country, she took on the vested interests, she made the difference, she stuck to her convictions, and in the end, that resolution paid off. And I think she's therefore greatly admired across the political spectrum, even by those who were viscerally opposed to some of the things that she said and did. I think it will be very interesting to see how people react to the loss of Margaret Thatcher. I think that many people who felt hostile to some of the things they thought that she stood for, who opposed some of the ways, certainly, that she was portrayed in the media, who felt that she was too harsh, too uncaring, I think they will think carefully about her ultimate legacy and what she did to unleash the enterprise, the spirit of the British people, and to enable them to rediscover what they had lost, which was really the belief in Britain. That was what she gave this country back, and that was an astonishing thing for a Prime Minister to do. But I did obviously meet her on a few occasions. I do remember meeting her when she'd just had a tough time at the Madrid summit, when she'd been ambushed by Geoffrey Howe and Nigel Lawson, and they tried to get her to get into the ERM, and she was in a very bad mood then. And I remember thinking then what a remarkable person she was. She said one very wise thing. She said many wise things, but one of the wise was she said, if you want a speech, get a man. If you want something done, get a woman.